Welcome to the Creators Lab Activewear Webinar. We're so glad you could join us today. In today's session, we'll take you through creating a detailed t-shirt and leggings. Let's hop into our technical t-shirt. While t-shirt construction is quite simple, we will be creating a technical t-shirt intended for more intense workouts. We'll concentrate on creating logo-embossed fabric and creating a custom logo burned-out jersey to be used in areas where we're going to need a bit more ventilation. We will create these two fabrics from scratch. We will also work with logos and creating a realistic look when using fabric with transparency. Let's start with a simple block and map out our design. In our block, we already have reference lines placed to help us work with cut marks. We're going to recreate our design with the pen tool. We can use snap to point and snap to edge while we draw the lines for easier workflow. And use extend shrink to edges to make our lines connect with the edges of the pattern. When we have our main design mapped out, we can proceed and create cut marks for the lines which are created. For this, we'll select the line and make it a cut mark. We can hold Shift to select multiple lines at a time. We can now check how our design would look in the 3D window and make our cut marks visible in 3D. Once we have mapped out our design, we can also see those lines in the 3D window and we can adjust if needed. The line is going to be visible in the 3D window if it has no stitch construction assigned to the line. Once we will start assigning our stitch construction to the lines, they're not going to be visible in the contrast color. Now that we have mapped out our design, we can start working on the fabric. First, let's create our logo embossed fabric based on the interlock and the repeat of the logo. We'll add an artwork. Then place it on the garment and start working with it. We can see the size of the repeat is going to be too big with the logo in the current size. For that, we scale the logo to 2.6 centimeters. This looks about right. Next, we create an all-over print. This looks quite nice, but we would like the logo design to follow the angle. For this, you can see we already pre-created the guideline at 35 degrees. To rotate, we select the texture tool and click on our all-over print. Let's scale a little bit so the logo is smaller. We'll rotate the repeat so it follows the guideline. This is looking great. When we are satisfied with how our repeat looks, we can work on the fabric. We want an embossed look, not a printed look. We recolor the embossing to mid-gray and put it in overlay. This combination prevents the artwork from recoloring the fabric underneath. We adjust the specular map to be 3.3. And I'm going to adjust the roughness map to 0.4. The specular map will create a shiny effect, which often happens when the fabric is embossed. The roughness will distribute the shine more uniformly. We raise the transparency of our embossing so that it blends in nicely to the fabric underneath. Next, we're going to create a burnt-out jersey. We will use this fabric in the t-shirt areas which would need more ventilation. For this, we are going to clone our fabric, which is going to be a base for our burnt-out jersey fabric with the logo motif. We will edit externally in Photoshop. Here you can see we already had opened a map of the fabric and applied a logo with transparency. We also have the texture of a heathered jersey with a transparency on certain areas. We're going to combine these two maps to create the effect. We apply it to this file and adjust the order of the layers to create the burnt out jersey effect just on the area of the logo. The rest of the fabric is going to be opaque. We'll merge layers and save this map to use for our fabric. We're back in VStitcher, and now we open the fabric, which we're going to be editing. Go to the diffuse map and replace it with the map we have just created in Photoshop. You can see now that we have quite a lot of opaque area around the logo. Let's apply it to the garment and see if this is what we are after. The repeat is too large. We can adjust it by editing the diffuse map, and we can crop the image so that only the logo is going to be visible. We can see that our logo is still too large. Let's reduce its size to 26% to match the embossed fabric. Now it's looking much better. Let's match the angle of the repeat on the embossed fabric. For this, we select the texture tool, and with the gizmo, we'll rotate the fabric. This looks great. When we replaced the diffuse map of the fabric with the burnt out logo design, this kept the texture maps from the original fabric. Let's check how it would look on the white avatar. We can see the transparency looks quite nice. Now we will go ahead and apply the burned out jersey to all the pattern pieces that will have this fabric placement. We'd like to have it here on the lower part of the sleeve underarm for better ventilation. Now we are going to finish our t-shirt's neckline, sleeve edge, and the hem of the t-shirt. Let's start from the neckline. On this area, we'd like to have the ribbed fabric, but we'd like to have 2 layers. For this, we use Insert tool, Extract. We click on the area mapped out by the cut marks. To extract the mapped out area, we need to click twice within the area selection. We have now created a new pattern piece. We do the same process on the back pattern piece. We can use a rib which is brought in from our material libraries available in VStitcher and apply it to the mapped out areas we designated for the rib fabric. To create double effect, we will not stitch the pattern piece to the t-shirt, but instead we will use the attach function. We also enable snap to point and snap to edge options. When matching to the edge and to the point, you can see the yellow markings, which are telling us that we are precisely applying the pattern piece. We click Attach, and repeat the process for the front pattern attaching the pattern piece. Let's recolor the rib to this beautiful orange color. For this, we click Colors in Use. Just drag and drop it to our fabric. You can see that our ribbed area looks raised from the base of the fabric. It looks quite nice and has nice volume, and yet we haven't arranged or stitched the pattern piece. In transparent areas with 2 layers, there would be reduced transparency. Attachments will not reduce the transparency, So to finish the rest of the neckline, we will create pattern pieces for our facing and stitch them. We select the area where we would like to clone by offset, and we specify the width of the facing we need. In this case, it will be 2 centimeters wide. We use Extract tool to create pattern pieces for our facing. Click once in each area to make a selection. Clicking again on an already selected area will extract a pattern piece. We can now create the symmetrical pattern piece and repeat the same procedure here on the back. We're selecting the edge, clone by offset, 2 centimeters, and apply. Adjust the internal line to extend to the correct cut mark. Extract the patterns as before. And create symmetrical pattern pieces. Now we arrange the facings. We create a separate cluster for the back torso and move the facing pieces. We do the same for the front torso. Then we refine the position in 2D and 3D. We stitch our pattern pieces. We will start with the front facing, then stitch the back facing. Because facing pattern pieces should be stitched under the neckline body pieces, we need to adjust the 3D layers. We currently have them at layer 21, the same as the rest of the t-shirt. Change the layer order to be at layer 20. Then we will update the simulation. This gives us a really nice finished effect. Next, we will work on the hem of our t-shirt. We want to create a folded hem. For that, we clone edges by offset. The hem width is going to be 2 centimeters, and we need to create 2 lines. One line will be for the fold, and one for the stitching of the hem. This is the fold line for the edges of the hem, and this is where we stitch the edge of the t-shirt. We can proceed and stitch. Flip the stitches where needed. Perform the same on the back pattern. Now we would need to work on a fold line. We are going to go to the advanced options and add a negative angle 170 degrees. This would ensure that the fold is going from the face to the inside direction. To confirm the fold line is in the correct position, we can go to Prepare. We can see it is folding nicely to the inside. We click Finish to finish our simulation. We can see that we have this really nice realistic effect on our hemline. All we have left to do for the hem is to create a double needle stitch. We go to the seam section of our materials and expand hamburger menu and select Add New Double Needle Seam. We assign the double needle stitch to the same line to which we stitched our hem. Our stitch appears a bit higher than what we are intending it to be. We can adjust this by selecting the line to which we applied our double needle stitch and adjusting the position slider to a desired placement. We will also change the stitch construction for the internal line to flat, so that it does not interfere with our double needle stitch appearance. We will make the same change for the back hem. We will recolor our stitch. Next, we will adjust the properties of our double needle stitch. We will adjust the stitch length. We will make it more dense. Let's change it to 9 SPI. Lastly, we will finish the sleeve hem by applying the new double needle stitch from V-Stitcher Library. This new stitch is already adjusted to be at the distance of 2.5 centimeters from the edge of the hem. As the finishing touch, we are going to apply logos to our t-shirt. We already have the artwork here prepared. Assign the logo with the Assign tool. We will double check the position of the logo in the 2D window. We want it centered and 8.5 centimeters from the neckline. We can easily adjust the logo placement manually from transformation sections on the right. We are going to add another logo to the sleeve. We would like to change the placement direction and make sure that it is not overlapping with the seam. Let's double check from the 2D window that it is in the center of the sleeve. For the logos, we are using available artwork execution effects from Substance. We are going to use Agility Heat Transfer effect for our logos here on this t-shirt. We check all the seam properties and ensure that a directional seam construction is applied with a depth of 0.05. Then we can check the final look in the V-Ray Ray Trace Render preview window. We can see that in our preview window, all the techniques that we used look quite nice. The double layer rib and embossing add depth, and the fold back hem and facing in the transparent areas add realism. We are done with the t-shirt. Next, we will be creating a pair of leggings. We will be focusing on a few key design elements during the creation process. We will create a realistic-looking exposed waistband elastic with a woven logo and silicone gripper on the inside of the elastic waistband. We will also create a welded pocket. Then, we will color block our design. And lastly, we will finish our seams with reflective overlay tape on the outside of the garment. We are starting with the basic block of the leggings. We already mapped out our basic design with internal lines and created cut marks on certain areas, which will have different fabric assigned later in the process. Let's go ahead and create our exposed elastic for the waistband of the leggings. Our design intent is a thick elastic with a visible logo woven into the elastic. We'll also have a silicone grip inside. We start this process with the pattern. Our waistband pattern piece is 5 centimeters tall. To create the effect of exposed elastic overlapping the leggings, we have already created an internal line on the waistband pattern 1 centimeter from the edge and stitched it with the edge of the leggings. We will make sure the 3D layer for the waistband pattern is higher than the layer of the leggings. This will ensure that the waistband will appear on top and create a realistic overlapping effect for the exposed elastic. Next, we will create a suitable fabric for the waistband. First, we will clone the fabric already assigned to the waistband and the leggings. We then will use the cloned copy to create a new waistband fabric suitable for the elastic. First, we go to the physics properties of the cloned fabric and access the Browzwear library. We search for the elastic. We select this elastic option. Next, we will work on the textures for the elastic. We already prepared custom texture maps. We will replace the texture maps of the current elastic. We'll start replacing the maps for the face side of the fabric first. We replace the diffuse map, roughness, normal, and displacement. Then we repeat the same process of replacing maps for the backside of the fabric. We can now apply our new fabric to the waistband. You can see that we are having transparent bands running through the custom maps for the elastic, which in our case we don't need. We'll crop this area to exclude the transparent band, selecting only the texture we want to use. Since the scanned elastic band was 2.2 centimeters tall originally, we will make our texture size slightly bigger to accommodate the width of our waistband pattern. We will increase its size to 230%. Now we see that our textures are being exposed nicely. We will repeat the same process of cropping the texture for the back side of the fabric. And scale it to 230%. Next, we will work on our logo design for the elastic. We will go to the VStitcher libraries and add the seam, which will be the base for our logo design running through the elastic. We'll select a single needle stitch. Now we will replace the diffuse map of the stitch with the image of the logo we prepared for our design. There are still other maps of the original stitch that we don't need. We remove them. We replace the diffuse map for the back side of the stitch with the same map as we used for the front. To apply our logo on the waistband, we will place an internal line in the middle of the pattern. We use Clone Edge by Offset function. We offset the edge by 2.5 centimeters. We apply our newly created logo seam to the internal line. We need to center the seam. We can do this from the Materials section of our seam. We need to make sure our internal line is selected first. We adjust the position slider to be 0%. Now with the Texture tool, we adjust the position of the logo on the waistband. If we're not happy with how our logo looks, we can crop our diffuse map like this. This is going to look much better. Now we can start to work on the color of the logo. We select Recolor Mode and select black for the face side of the logo and orange for the back. We want to have the appearance of the logo woven through the elastic with two distinct colors. Additionally, we want our logo to have a three-dimensional effect. For this, we will generate depth maps in VStitcher. Let's see how this looks in the V-Ray preview window. We see that this has created a three-dimensional effect of the logo. Let's increase the intensity of the effect by adjusting the displacement slider. The next element of the waistband elastic is the silicone gripper on the inside of the waistband. We will create an internal line 1 centimeter below the top edge of the waistband using Clone Edge by Offset. As the base for our silicone grip, we will bring and use a single needle stitch. Then we will edit the stitch properties. We will adjust the diffuse map of the stitch to be larger using Edit Externally. Because this is a vector file, it opens in Illustrator. We will increase the stroke size to be 16 points and fit to artwork bounds. We are back to VStitcher. We will now apply our seam and see how it looks. We will apply it on the back of the waistband pattern piece. We will only make the front side of the stitch visible. We can hide the back side of the stitch by turning off the eye icon. We created nice thickness, but it's still quite a uniform line. So we will further adjust to add space between the stitches to be 1 centimeter apart. We will also slightly adjust the other properties. Now we have this nice visual of a silicone gripper running just on the inside. We can also adjust the texture maps to make it slightly more silicone looking. We adjust roughness to 0.06, clear coat to 0.3 to bring up the gloss, and specular to 2.8. Let's change the position of the silicone band so it's not coming too close to our woven logo. For that, we select internal lines in the 2D window and adjust the position slider. As a finishing touch, we will apply a zigzag stitch to the center back seam and apply a double needle stitch to the bottom edge of the waistband. Let's check our elastic in the V-Ray preview window. This looks great. We can see the gloss of the silicone, and we can see our woven logo has good volume. The auto-generated depth maps for the logo design look good, but we can improve it further. Let's create a custom displacement map. We go to our diffuse map and click on Edit. In Photoshop, we go to Layer Effects and select the Bevel and Embossed option. This creates a mid-gray base for the darker areas, which are going to be pressed down into our map, and lighter areas, which will create the volume. Back in VStitcher, we add our displacement map. Let's set the depth to 0.3 for a stronger displacement effect. To bring in the texture, we can add the same normal map we are using for the elastic to be used in the logo design as well. Let's see how this combination will work in the V-Ray preview. Let's adjust the value for the normal map and for the displacement map for an even stronger effect. We want to have the edge of the elastic look thicker and more rounded. The stitch construction effect is used to create the look of a pressed seam where two edges are stitched together. We can repurpose this to create a more rounded effect on the edge of the elastic. Let's see how the effect will look in V-Ray Preview. This looks great! Now that we are done with the elastic band, we can continue to work on assigning the fabrics to our leggings. We will bring some fabrics from the t-shirt to use them for the leggings as well. Let's use the logo-embossed fabric and the burnt-out jersey. We'll add the fabric directly from the t-shirt file we were just working on. Select the icons for the fabric we want to add to this file. Now we can start assigning our fabrics. Let's recolor the embossed fabric to white. And recolor the burnt-out jersey fabric to black. We want to have multiple colors of our main body fabric. We can clone the fabric and recolor it. We will color this in a beautiful teal color and also in yellow. Let's check out our design. Now we will simulate side pockets. The pockets are stitched to internal lines. The entire leggings design is created with cut marks and internal lines. This allows us to change garment design at any time without altering the pattern. We will bring our pockets into 3D and update the simulation. This looks great! Let's apply mesh from our library to the gusset for extra comfort and ventilation. Another design element of these leggings is the welded pocket on the back of the garment. Let's take a closer look at how this pocket is constructed. We already have all the pieces we need for our back welded pocket and created an oval shape to map it out. Using this oval shape, we extract the new pattern piece, which is going to be a welded gasket around the pocket. And we created a hole in the center of the welded piece through which we will see the zipper. Now we will create a reverse zipper for the back pocket. We clone our main body fabric to use as a base for our zipper. Since we want to create a zipper with rounded edges, we won't use a smart zipper. Instead, we will create a zipper by applying zipper physics to the base fabric and reverse zipper texture maps. Starting with our fabric, we go to Fabric Physics and select Miscellaneous from the drop-down menu. We then select Zipper Plastic Wide Physics. Next, we need to change the maps of our base fabric. We already created a custom map for our reverse zipper. Let's add them. We replace diffuse, normal, and displacement maps. We also recolor our zipper to black. Select the oval shape and make it a cut mark. Then apply the zipper fabric we just created. We have our welded gasket piece already stitched to the internal line on the back pocket like this. We will also create an internal line to stitch our zipper garage. As a finishing touch, we apply the slider to our zipper tape. We will recolor the back pocket according to our design. Lastly, we will finish our leggings by assigning its seams. For this, we will use flat lock stitch and reflective overlay tape. The reflective overlay tape is created as a trim based on a simple stitch with the texture maps applied for the same fabric used for the back welded pocket. We are going to apply it to these cut marks. For the rest of the seams, we are going to apply flat lock stitch. There is a slight space left between our overlay and the edge. We can adjust that by clicking on the seam and adjusting the position of the material on the seam. We can make it centered. We will apply a double needle stitch at the bottom of the leg. As a finishing touch, we will apply the logo. We are done with the leggings. For more activewear content, visit Browzwear University and our new learning membership.